Hare Krishna, welcome to Within Tattves. Mugyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Tattro Nirgandena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Padamhiyam Dadati Swapanantitam Vande Shri Guru Padikamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajata Sagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Satyadevam Radha Krishna Pada Sagada Dalita Shri Vishnathan Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopeshna Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Pranamami Haripriya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatire Shitarini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna. So we are continuing our discussion from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22nd, 22nd, right? Verse number 39 today will start. So far we have heard in this section, Prithu Maharaj appeared from the body of Vena by the churning of his arms. He was glorified by all the Suta, Magadha, Vandis. Prithu Maharaj said, "You are glorifying me, although I have not displayed any qualities." But still they continue to glorify because he is the avatar of the Lord, Palana Shakti. Then, in due course of their glorification, it was predicted that this Prithu Maharaj will level the earth, he'll have a fight with Indra, he'll milk Mother Earth, he'll meet Kumaras. So Maitreya Muni, as he speaks all this, Vidurji, he asks about everything. And that's how the discussion went on. Now in this chapter, Maitreya Muni is describing the meeting of Prithu Maharaj with the four Kumaras headed by Sanat Kumar. And Prithu Maharaj very humbly presented himself as a fallen Grihastha, and he glorified the sages, asked how one can get benefited, what's the highest goal of life. So Sanat Kumar, he answered all the questions. And then in this section, which we are hearing, the four Kumaras, they are headed by Sanat Kumar. They first describe how attachment to sense gratification is a cause of samsara. And if we are attached to sense gratification, it leads to destruction of the self. It leads to lower species of life. And therefore, one should be detached from the things that obstruct the four Purushartha. Then he describes Gyan Mishra Bhakti, Bhakti Mishra Gyan, and then seeing the expression of Prithu Maharaj, who was the pure devotee of the Lord. Sanat Kumar, he starts speaking about pure devotional service in two verses, 39 and 40. So we'll recite these two verses. Yatpad Yadapad Pankaj Palash Vilas Bhaktya Karmashayam Gratitamudgratayanti Santaha Tadvannariktamatayo Yatayo Piruddha Roto Ganastamaranam Bhajavasudevam. The devotees were always engaged in the service
of the tools of the lotus feet of the Lord can very easily overcome hard knotted desires for spirituality, because it is very difficult along the yogis, the jnanis and the yogis, although trying to stop the waves of sense gratification cannot do so. Therefore, you are advised to be able to do
Hmm. Yat pad pankaj palash vilas bhaktya. Those who are engaged in service of pad pankaja, the lotus feet, the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord. What happens to those people, those devotees who are engaging in service of the Lord's lotus feet? Karma ashaya, all the accumulated desires to enjoy the world, the fruitive desires, karma ashayam grathitam udgrathayanti. So this karma ashaya, it is like a hard knot. Grathita, it is not so easy to remove this knot. Pumsa istriya maithuni bhavametat tayormitha hridaya granthi. So this granthi, this grathitam, this is a very hard knot. It is not just one way knot. It is a two-way, three-way, four-way. So many different attachments. Husband, wife, wife to husband, wife to children, children to parents. So many attachments. They are hard knot. Karma ashrayam grathitam. But as soon as one starts serving the Lord, udgrathayanti, they are rooted out. This hard knot, which is very difficult to overcome, it gets rooted out. Udgrathayanti santaha. So these devotees, they can very easily uproot the hard knot of material desires, not others, not the jnanis or the yogis. For devotees, it is easy. For devotees, they can very casually, they can become detached. Of course, it doesn't happen so easily, but it is the result of practicing devotional service. Virakti has to come. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janeti Ashu Vairagyam. Anywhere else, this is described. Virakti automatically appears. Any other places, any other verses? No. क्या हो गया श्रमेव ही केवलम हो तो ठीक है, but virakti from this material world. There is another verse which says bhakti parishanobhava virakti. Three things happen automatically, just like when we eat. Three things happen: pushti, shutapayanudhasam, nourishment, satisfaction, and reduction of the hunger. So virakti has to come. Only for devotees it is easy. For others it is not so easy. Klesho adhikataras tesham avyakta satya chetasam. It is not so easy for jnanis and the yogis. Tadvanna riktamatayo yatayopi. Although they are trying to stop it, it is not so easy. To remove all these material desires, it is not so easy for jnanis and yogis. Shroto gana. So these waves of material desires, the waves of sense enjoyment, they are not easy to stop. They are incessant. Therefore, Bhaja Vasudevam. O Prithu Maharaj, you are advised to engage in the devotional service to the Vasudev, the son of Vasudev, and to Krishna. So there are three kinds of Prabhupada writes. There are three kinds of transcendentalists: Jnanis, Yogis, and Bhaktas. All of them, they want to stop these desires, but it is not so easy for karmis and jnanis, also not karmis, jnanis and the yogis. They cannot be stopped by any other process other than bhakti yoga. That is what sixth canto begins with. Parikshit Maharaj asks, how will these people be delivered from hell? So Shukdeva Goswami says, first option is, what is the first option? Prayashchitta, karma kandi, atonement. So the example is given of what? Elephant. Kunjar Shauchavat, it is like elephant bathing. Then Shukdeva Goswami gives the next proposal of jnana. What is the example given? Yeah, even if the forest is burnt, next rainy season again it will come up. And then Shukadeva Goswami gives the best proposal, best solution. Vasudeve Bhagavan. Kechit kevalaya bhaktya Vasudeva parayana agham dunvantika sinena niharam yogaskara. So bhakti is the only process which destroys the sin and destroys the sinful desires also. The desires, they are impossible to stop. Vihaya kaman yas sarvan pumam sharati nispriha. A devotee, his heart is like an ocean and he can very easily stop. He is not affected even if the rivers are entering. What example is given? Where it is given? Even if the rivers enter the ocean is peaceful. कहाँ पे आता है exam? Bhagavad Gita, somewhere it comes. Even if the rivers enter the ocean never gets affected. It is always peaceful. Apuryamaणम अचल प्रतिष्ठम समुद्रमापा प्रविशन्ति यत्त्वत् तद्वत् कामायम प्रविशन्ति सर्वे शांतिम आपनोति. So that is possible only for a devotee. Prabhupada writes, the bhaktas, by their devotional service unto the lotus feet of Lord, become so overwhelmed with transcendental bliss. Just like Dhruv Maharaj, he offered a prayer. Oh my Lord, the bliss which I am experiencing in your devotional service cannot be compared to Brahmananda. Then what to speak of Swargananda? And Jadananda is not in question only. Yanirvritisthanubhitam tavapada padma dhyanat bhavajjana katha shravanena vasyat. Two things are giving me intense pleasure. Bhavajjana katha shravan and tavapada padma dhyan. So he's so overwhelmed. He says, I am already matta. No, I'll not even realize when I'll cross this ocean. Just like a mad, intoxicated person doesn't realize when he has reached home. Although he is beaten sometimes on the way, he doesn't care about it. को फर्क ही नहीं पड़ रहा है. So that's how the devotees, they're not affected by any material distress. The Jnanis and the Yogis, they simply struggle against the waves of desire because Riktamataya. Riktamataya means they are devoid of devotional service. That is not so easy. Prabhupada quotes this verse, Janayati Ashu Vairagya. Then Prabhupada elaborates on this word, Bhaja Vasudevam. Only devotional service can stop all the waves, nothing else. The desires for fruitive activities are strongly rooted, but the trees of desires can be uprooted completely by devotional service. Because devotional service employs superior desires. Where in Bhagavad Gita it is said, unless one develops a higher taste, anyone remembers the verse? Higher taste नहीं आएगा तब तक परम दृष्टवान विषया विनिवर्तन्ते
परम
रसवर्जम रसोप्यस्य परम दृष्टवान. So one can give up inferior desires when engaged in superior desires. To try to stop desires is impossible. Prabhupada writes in that Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, 71st verse, Vihaya Kamanya Sarvan. In that verse, he says, what is real desirelessness? Real desirelessness is to desire only for the pleasures of the Lord. That is real desirelessness. One cannot stop desires. It is like creating a vacuum. Very difficult to create a vacuum for long time. One has to desire the supreme in order not to be entangled in inferior desires. Jnanis, they have a desire to become one with the Lord. Yogis, they have a desire for mystic powers. But bhaktas, they have no material desires. So which verse says this? Chaitanya Charitamrita verse. So many times Prabhupada paraphrases many of the verses. All the yogis, they want something. Jnanis, they want something. That's why they are always disturbed. Devotees, they don't want anything. They are shant. अभी तो याद होना चाहिए. शांत और क्या है? सिद्धि कामी सकली शांत कृष्ण भक्त कृष्ण भक्त निष्काम अतएव शांत। तो ये जो बेसिक थोड़े थोड़े वर्सेस तो होने चाहिए टिप पे आपके। भक्ति योग के बाद उतना तो होना चाहिए। बाकी आपको यह पाद पंकज पलाश नहीं आया तो चलेगा, ये तो आना ही चाहिए। So Jnani is maintaining a desire to become one with the Lord, but such desire is also considered kama. Anything separate from Lord's interest, that is kama. Atmendriya priti vancha tare boli kam, Krishnendriya priti ichha dhare prem nam. So any desire for one's own personal gratification, that is kama. So Prabhupada is writing, paraphrasing that only. Bhaktas, they are not desirers of any material desire and enjoyment, they are purified. There is no artificial attempt. It's stated herein that the Kumaras, by the Kumaras, that the lotus feet of the Lord are ultimate reservoir of all pleasures. Kamashayam, Karmashayam, Grathitam, Udrathayanti. All the material desires are uprooted. Because as soon as one gets Krishna in his life, Krishna can fulfill all the desires. There is a beautiful word which comes, I've spoken this many times, that when somebody goes to Krishna and asks for material things, Krishna gives it or not?
And he'll also.
He purifies the desires. How he does that? He says, I will also come. Satyam nishatyam arthitam arthito nrinam naiva tadoyat punararthitam yataha. Satyam, it is true that arthitam arthito nrinam. If you want artha, he'll give you. Naiva taisa देंगे दोबारा मांगे देंगे. Naiva tadoyat punararthitam yataha. So how he does that? Swayam vidhatte, he gives himself. Devotee says, Anichatam, I don't want you, my Lord. बस मेरे को मेरा benediction दे दो. भगवान बोलता है ऐसा नहीं होता इधर. 1 + 1 3. I always come with my desires, with my benedictions. And the Lord's lotus feet is Ichhapidhanam. Ichhapidhanam means Lord lotus feet can fulfill all the desires. That means satisfies the desires. That's what Prabhupada writes here. Lord's lotus feet of the Lord are ultimate reservoir of all pleasure. One should therefore take shelter of the lotus feet instead of trying unsuccessfully to stop the desires. Because to stop the desires is impossible, just like nobody can stop the waves in ocean or waves of the river. It is impossible. When the tide comes over the river, it overwhelms the flowing of the river, and the river itself becomes overflooded. And when the waves from the sea become more prominent than the waves from the river. So river may have small waves. When they enter the ocean waves are oceanic, very huge. In front of the ocean waves, the river waves are insignificant. So the waves of material desires are like the waves of an ocean. But the waves of devotional service are unimaginably big. So they easily subdue all the material desires. Similarly, a devotee with intelligence plans so many things for the service of the Lord, and he becomes overflooded by the desire to serve the Lord. Prabhupada quotes this verse by Yamunacharya. Anyone knows this verse? Famous है ना, Prabhupada ने बहुत बार बोला है. हाँ, हमको बहुत बार बोले हैं. कोटेशन भी है. यदवधि मम चेता कृष्ण पदारविंदे नवनव रसधाम्नि उद्यतम रंतुमासी अहो बत नारी संगम स्मर्यमाने भवति मुख विकार सुष्ठु निष्ठीवनम च. Prabhupada is putting that param drishtva. Chakravarti Thakur writes, Gyan Mishra Bhakti, having predominance of Bhakti, culminates in what? Shantarati. पढ़ के बोल. याद है ना? Recent memory. That was explained in starting verse number 22. Chakravarti, I am reading Chakravarti Thakur's purport, commentary. Then 37-38 explained Bhakti Mishra Gyan. पहले बताया ज्ञान मिश्र भक्ति, देन बताया भक्ति मिश्र ज्ञान. ज्ञान मिश्र भक्ति से क्या मिलता है? शांत रति. भक्ति मिश्र ज्ञान से क्या मिलेगा? सायुज्य. So Prithu was not so interested and excited hearing all this. He was having distaste. So now he is describing pure devotional service. Palash refers to the Lord's toes. Yadapad Pankaja Palash. Vilas means distinctive sport or movement with distinction. In other words, beauty increasing at every moment. The beauty of the Lord's lotus feet increases every moment. By the bhakti to the Lord's toes, whose beauty increases every moment. Bhakti has two forms, sadhan and satya. Karmashaya means ahankar filled with impressions of karma. They are very tightly knotted. Grathitam. By bhakti to the Lord, endowed with various astonishing skills, such as massaging, putting perfume on Lord's body, bathing him, dressing his hair, or it can mean remembrance by the beauty, remembrance of the beauty of Lord's toes. So anyone who is engaged in any of these things, for them it is so very easy to uproot the material desires. Okay, now he continues the next verse. Another beautiful verse. Krichro mahaniha bhavardamaplavesham षड्वर्गनक्रमसुखेन तितीर्षन्ति तत्त्वं हरेर्भगवतो भजनीयमङ्घ्रीम् कृत्वोडुपं व्यसनोत्तरदुस्तराणाम्
The ocean of nescience is very difficult to cross because it is infested with many dangerous sharks. Although those who are non-devotees undergo severe austerities and penances to cross that ocean, we recommend that you simply take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, which are like boats for crossing the ocean. Although the ocean is difficult to cross, by taking shelter of his lotus feet, you will overcome all dangers.
Anywhere else this example has come? Famous Lord's lotus feet are compared to boat. Hmm?
No,
वही ब्रह्मा स्पेस समाश्रिताये
Samashritaye pada
पद पल्लव लवम उसी में आता है ना पदम पदम विपदम उसी में आता है कृच्छ्रो महान यह this ocean of nishines, it is mahan, it is very difficult to cross. For whom? For non-devotees. Krichro mahan iha aplava isham. Aplava isha means those who have not taken shelter of this boat. Which boat? The boat of lotus feet of the Lord. They cannot cross. It is very troublesome. Because this ocean has Shadvarga Nakra. Nakra means sharks. What are the sharks in this ocean? The six senses. They are very difficult to overcome. Avasukhena titirshanti. It is very, very difficult, although they undergo all the austerities, all the tapasya, it is very difficult for them. But, oh my Lord, tattvam harer bhagavato bhajaniyam angrim. By taking shelter, bhajaniya, ये तो बहुत कॉमन है ना कौन कौन से वर्ड्स हैं हाँ इक्षणीय भजनीय तो है इसमें हाँ लक्षणीय नहीं है नया नया बना रहे हैं और स्मरणीय और हाँ स्मरणीय ओके दर्शनीय So here, bhajaniya. Bhajaniya, they are worth doing, worth worshipping. Bhajan karna hai, they are worth. And they are like udupam. Udupam means they are like the boat. So Prabhupada writes, Material world is compared to a great ocean. Another name of this ocean is Vaitarani. In that ocean, there are innumerable universes floating. And spiritual world is on the other side of this Vaitarana. Parastasmatu bhavo anya. So these six senses, they are very, very difficult. In the fifth canto also it is described that out of fear of this material world, if somebody leaves and goes to the forest, renouncing this world, he's not going alone. He's going with whom? Six wives. What are the six wives?
On the sixth sense.
Six senses, five senses in the mind. Bhayam pravattasya vaneshu apisya vitasahasте sat shapatna. छह पत्नियों के साथ जाता है. Not going alone. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, crossing samsara is very difficult for sannyasis and yogis. There is great suffering for those who do not have the means of crossing, because they desire to cross, but they can't cross. Because this samsara is filled with crocodiles, sharks and crocodiles. Then Chakravarti Thakur says, if they are not killed by the waves of lust or devoured by the crocodiles of the six senses, and if they are strong, though tired, and they do not give up, after a long time, somehow or other, by using the arms of Jnana and Vairagya, one may with difficulty cross. इतना सा बोलने के बाद बोल रहे हैं शायद हो जाए उनसे. If they are not devoured by lust, then senses, then they are strong enough, then for a long time they don't give up, because it doesn't happen so easily. Bahunam janmanam lag jate hain. Therefore, O my Lord, therefore, O Prithu Maharaj, please cross this ocean of samsara by taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. He quotes this verse also, Samasthitayi Pada Pallava. Another verse he quotes where similarly Devtas, they are praying to the Lord in the womb of Devaki. Tvat ambujakshakhila sattva-dhamni samadhinaveshyat chetaseke tvat pada potena. Here also they are comparing the Lord's lotus feet as the boat.
Where specifically mentioned sannyasis and yogis in the first line?
Jnanis, na? Jnanis and yogis.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, context वही है ना. Sannyasi means jnanis. They have to give up everything. Okay. So Prabhupada also writes, there are many methods by which one can cross, but Kumaras are recommending the method of taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. No other methods can help one so easily. They are very troublesome. They may go through severe austerities and penance, but they may not even cross it. It is described that the yogis and jnanis, they may cross the ocean of lust, but they get drowned in a puddle of anger. And that's what happens with many yogis. Shobari and Vishwamitra, they control lust, but they got affected by anger. Dangerous elements in the universe are compared to sharks. Even though one may be a very expert swimmer, he cannot survive if he is attacked by sharks. One often sees that so many swamis and yogis, they advertise themselves as competent to cross the ocean of Nishais, but actually they are victims of their own senses. Okay. So that's how the four Kumaras, they end their instructions. Now, from 41st verse onwards, Prithu Maharaj is expressing his gratitude to the four Kumaras for giving such wonderful instructions. Maitreya Uvacha
Maitre Uvacha
Saivam Brahmaputrena Kumarena Atmamedhasa Sarchitatmagati Samyak Prashasyo Vachitam Ripaha.
The great sage Mantra continued, being thus enlightened in complete spiritual knowledge by the son of Brahma, one of the Kumaras, who was complete in spiritual knowledge, came to worship them in the forest.
So the king then worshipped all these four Kumaras with following words. Aarti nahi kiya, with words he worshipped. He glorified them. Prabhupada focuses on this word Atma Medhasa. Kumara Atma Medhasa. They were well versed in spiritual knowledge. So Prabhupada is writing, what is Atma Medha? Atma Medha means the mind who is acting in Krishna consciousness. That is Atma Medha. Opposite to that is Griha Medha. One who is always engaged in material thoughts. That is Griha Medha. Raja Uvacha Tomenugraha Purvam Harinartanukampina Tam Apadaitum Brahman Bhagwan Yuyam Magata. By the mercy of the Lord, one gets association of devotees. That is very important. And by the association of devotees, one gets service to the Lord. Where it has come? ये sequence हमने सुना है कभी पहले. By the mercy of the, actually उसके पहले भी है. By the mercy of the devotee, one gets mercy of the Lord, and by the mercy of the Lord, one gets a chance to serve the devotees of the Lord. कहाँ पे आया श्रवण? Anyone remembers? कहीं पे तो आया है, सुना है. Because बहुत पहले आया, फर्स्ट कैंटो में है. नहीं, उसमें नहीं आया. ये आता है फर्स्ट कैंटो 15 चैप्टर में, when this Khandava burning episode, Arjun is remembering. Mayadanav, he ran to take shelter of Arjun, and he said, "Please help me." Arjun said, "I can't do anything. Go to Krishna." Then he went to Krishna and he said, "Krishna, please forgive me. Please save me." He said, "Okay, you go back and serve Arjun. Make a palace for Pandavas." So Prabhupada writes there, by the mercy of the devotees, one gets mercy of the Lord, and by the mercy of the Lord, one gets a chance to serve the devotees of the Lord. So that is. So if somebody is getting chance to serve the devotees of the Lord, that means one has received the mercy of the Lord. So he's saying, you have, Lord Vishnu showed mercy, and now you have come to bless me. Prabhupada writes, when Lord makes a prediction, he fulfills that prediction through some of his devotees. Prabhupada is indirectly telling that actually Mahaprabhu predicted Prithvi Tyacheta Nagarati Gram. So how it will get fulfilled? Through some devotee only. Devotees would ask Prabhupada, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, why he didn't preach all over the world? He was the empowered incarnation. He said, Prabhupada would say, he left some service for me. So that's how Prabhupada is telling here. Regarding his devotees, Krishna told Arjuna, Name Bhakta Pranashyati. The point is that Lord himself could declare, but it was his desire that, why? Why Kaunteya Pratijani? Why he didn't do it himself? Because he's famous for breaking his vows. But his devotees makes a promise, he has to fulfill that. Lord is very compassionate upon suffering humanity. Although he is very compassionate, human beings are generally not very anxious to serve. The relation is something like father and son. Father is anxious for the welfare of the son, and son neglects the father. Therefore, the word anukampina is used here. Harir artha anukampa. Anukampa means extreme mercy. It is not ordinary mercy. कहाँ पे आता है ये word? Famous word. Anukampa. Takte. It is extreme mercy. आपने मेरे को इतना प्रॉब्लम में डाला. Thank you. It is extreme mercy. Takte anukampa. The Lord is so compassionate that he comes himself. Vinayadai dharmasya. Next verse. Nishpalitastakaarchakartsnyena
Chena
Bhagavad-bhir-gahnalubihi
Bhagavad-bhir-granalubhi
Sadhuchishtam hi me sarvam
Sadhuchishtam hi me sarvam
Atmana saha kim dade.
Atmana saha kim dade. My dear Brahmana, you have carried out the order thoroughly because you are also as compassionate as the Lord. It is my duty, therefore, to offer you something, but all I possess are but remnants of food taken by great saintly persons. What should it be?
Okay. So my dear Brahmana, Bhagavad-bhir-gahnalubihi, you are as compassionate as the Lord. Nishpaditascha karsnena, because you have carried out. Nishpadita means you have carried out the order of the Lord. Karsnena means in full. Now this word comes many times. Kritsnasya, in full, totality. Kritsna, in full. You are Bhagavad Bhi, you are representative of the Lord, and you are as compassionate as the Lord. Sadhu uchishtam hi me sarvam. So therefore, it is my duty to offer you something. But what I have, I am just having the uchishta of you, all great saintly persons only. Because in the previous times, what happens? Whenever great saintly person comes, the king makes him sit on the throne and says, "The entire kingdom is yours." वो नहीं बोलते अरे वाह चल हो गया. They say, no. Now, okay, you have offered it to me. Now I am giving back to you. Now you rule on my behalf. That means it is my kingdom you have given me, but I am giving back to you. So it is now uchisht of the saintly people only. So that was the tradition. No saintly people would, no kings would be in anxiety. पता नहीं वापस करेंगे कि नहीं. And when they would offer with actual genuine heart कि ये आपको सच में दे रहा हूँ. No duplicity, no formality. Actually, they would mean it. And the saintly people would also, they would mean it. They would just give it back. Okay, everything is yours. So that's why he's saying, Sadhu uchishtam hi me sarvam. All I possess are the remnants of food taken by saintly people. What can I give? Kim dade, what can I give you? So basically he's saying I cannot repay the debt of sadhus. Whatever you all have given me, I am eternally indebted. We cannot repay the debt to our spiritual masters. Whatever they have given us. If somebody thinks I can repay, then he becomes a what? नहीं. नहीं. Fool भी नहीं. नहीं. He becomes a joker. He's making fun of himself. That is what it is described. Vinod Patram. This word is used. आता है एक श्लोक आता है विनोद पात्रम. Somebody search. कैसे शुरू होता है? So if somebody tries to repay what the spiritual masters have given to us, then they become a joker. Actually, Vinod Patram, the another meaning is Udapatram. Just like we take water from the Ganga and offer to the Ganga only. But another meaning is given Vinod Patra. That means he's a joker. He's making fun of himself.
4.22.
कैसे शुरू होता है वो?
ईदृशी
भगवतो गतिरात्मवादा. आगे? एकांततो निगम भी प्रतिपादितानां दुष्यन्ते दभ्रकरुणो स्वकृतेन नित्यं को नाम तत्प्रतिकरोति विनोदपात्रम्. Vinodapatra. He becomes a Vinodapatra. One cannot repay. So many times devotees would ask Prabhupada, how can we repay? Sometimes Prabhupada would say, you cannot repay. Sometimes he would say, you can show your gratitude by preaching. So we cannot repay, but we can always show our gratitude towards our spiritual masters by following what they are saying. That is the way we can show our gratitude. आप जो बोल रहे हैं, I am dedicating my life for it. That is the way to repay, to show our gratitude. Chakravarti Thakur writes, I do not see anything to give you as Guru Dakshina. कुछ है ही नहीं मेरे पास, सब आपका ही तो है. The kingdom was given to me by the devotees like you and Bhrigu out of mercy. How can I give it back? आपका ही है, आपने ही दिया था. So how can I give you? Therefore, he calls it sadhu uchishtam. Very wonderful word. Sadhu uchishtam. He gives an example. It is inappropriate to give back to the father beetle my father chewed and gave me. तो उन्होंने they chewed and gave me and then I am giving again back to them. It doesn't look good. और प्रभुपाद ने ऐसा बहुत कुछ एक्सपीरियंस किया है. I think Mukund Maharaj he tells in that Miracle at 22nd Avenue that in the beginning days कुछ मालूम नहीं कौन, they were new devotees. So Prabhupada, he was eating something, he took a bite and out of his mercy gave to Mukund Maharaj. So that time he was not a sannyasi, मतलब नया devotee अभी भी थोड़ा दीक्षा हुआ है शायद. So he thought, oh, okay, Swamiji is giving me this. Okay, ठीक है. He ate it and he's giving back to Prabhupada. So then later they would recall how foolish we were. Prabhupada was giving out of his mercy, his Maha, and we didn't realize what is Maha. मैं खा के वापस Prabhupada को दे रहा हूँ. Sadhu Chishta. Prabhupada writes. Prithu Maharaj got his kingdom from the great saintly people like Bhrigu and others, just as one gets remnant of food. After death, Prabhupada tells the whole story. How after death of Vena, so the kingdom was belonging to the sages, and then they gave to Prithu Maharaj. Okay. So basically, Prithu Maharaj is showing by his example that if we are receiving something, we should never ever forget that it is only by the mercy of the devotees. Nothing is ours. Whatever we have, it is all the mercy of the devotees. And apparently, the property, the kingdom, it was governed by Veda. But when it is taken by the devotees and then given to the Prithu Maharaj, it became auspicious because it became Mahaprasad of the Lord, Mahaprasad of devotees of the Lord. So that's how he is so very grateful that all of you have given me this kingdom. So apparently an inauspicious situation became auspicious. That is the power of the devotees of the Lord. In 11th canto, it is described, Lord is telling to Uddhav that my devotees, they are like fire. When one takes shelter of fire, fire does three things. Fire dispels Shita, Bhaya, Tama. Fire dispels cold, fear, and darkness. Fearful, it is fearful in the darkness. Similarly, the devotees of the Lord, they also dispel, they are like fire. They dispel this cold existence, material existence. They dispel the ignorance and they dispel the darkness of this material world. Yathopashrayamanasya pumsa samsevatasthatha shita bhayam tamopeti bhagvantam vibhavasam shitam bhayat tamopeti sadhu samsevatasthatha. So that is the power of the devotees of the Lord. He continues. Pranadara sutta Brahman Kriyacha parichada Rajyam balam mahikosha Iti sarvam niveditam.
He continued, therefore, my dear Brahmanas, my life, wife, children, homes, furniture, houses, wherever India, my kingdom, strength, land, and especially my treasury are all offered upon you.
So now again he's saying everything belongs to you only, so I'm offering it back to you. So Prabhupada writes, Dara, the word Dara is, in some readings, the word Dara is not used. The word used then is Raya. Raya means wealth. Because the wife is not permitted to be offered to the Brahmanas. Everything is offered to worthy persons who are able to accept charity, but nowhere it is found that one offers his wife. So therefore, in some cases, Raya is more accurate than Dara. And then he says, I am offering Mahikosha also. So, since Ritu Maharaj offered everything, so why is separately telling I am offering my kosha also? Because the kings, they keep a secret treasury. सब कुछ है लेकिन अलग से एक रखा है. That is secret treasury. Just like many times all the uh, housewives है थोड़ा अलग से कुछ तो रखते हैं. So that in emergency, if something is needed, then okay, this will help us. So all the kings, they have the secret treasury, which is not known to anyone. That's what was described in the beginning when Ritu Maharaj was glorified. Nobody will know about his treasury. So that is the secret. So therefore he's saying, I am offering my treasury also. Ratna Bhand, secret treasury was known as Ratna Bhand, which contained special jewelries, bangles, necklace, which was presented to the king by the citizens. This was kept separate from the regular treasury house, where all collected revenues were kept. Thus, Ritu Maharaj offered his stock of private jewelry also. सब कुछ दे दिया. सैन्यापत्यं च राज्यं च दण्डनेतृत्वमेव च सर्वलोकाधिपत्यं च वेदशास्त्रविदर्हति.
Means only a person who is completely educated according to the principles of Vedic knowledge deserves to be commander in chief, ruler of the state, the first to chastise and the proprietor of the whole planet. Ritu Maharaj offered everything to Ritu Maharaj.
Senapatya, Rajyam cha, commander in chief, the ruler of the state, Dandanetritvam, the first to chastise, Sarvalokadipatyam, the proprietor of the entire planet. Everything he offered. Ritu Maharaj offered everything, since Veda Shastra Vidarhati, since only a person who is completely educated deserves to be offered everything. So therefore, he is offering everything to the four Kumaras. Okay, Prabhupada writes. It was not that the kings or Brahmanas were dictators, nor did they consider themselves proprietor of the state. The kings were also well versed in scriptures, and they were familiar with injunction, Ishavasyam idam sarvam. Everything belongs to the Lord, and one should use only whatever is given to him for his enjoyment, his quota. In the present age, the king or president forgets that he is servant of the God and thinks of himself as servant of people. And thinks of himself as servant of people. आज तो ऐसा भी नहीं होता है. Servant of people. मतलब वो इलेक्शन के पहले बोलते हैं खाली. Modern people say monarchy didn't give chance for others to grow. Only one family would become king. But actually in democracy, people say everybody can be king. In monarchy, there is only one person can be king. Democracy, everybody can be king. Even chaiwala can become king. So that is democracy. But why people are not so much interested in monarchy? Because in the recent history, the monarchs became dictators. In the Vedic times, the monarchs were not dictators. They were ruling citizens as the father takes care of the children. That's why nobody was apprehensive. Nobody had any doubts. Okay. Prabhupada writes a big purport about how the monarchy, how the government system is going on now. He quotes about the communism. We are not going into the detail of this. We'll go into the next verse. Swam eva brahmano bhunte
Swamena brahmana bhunte
samvaste sam dadati cha
samvaste
tasyaivanugrahinanam punjate kshatriyadayah.
Striyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras eat their food by virtue of Brahmanas. Mercy. With the Brahmanas who enjoy their own property, clothe themselves with their own property, and give charity with their own.
Such high standards, मतलब ये बोल रहे हैं सब ब्राह्मणों का ही है, हम तो खाली उनका उच्च पे जीते हैं. Such high standards of these Vedic kings, because the Brahmanas were also of that caliber. They never exploited their power and influence. They always lived with as minimal as possible. So that's why there was wonderful cooperation between Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas. Prabhupada writes, everything belongs to the Brahmanas. And out of humility, Brahmanas accept charity from the kings and the Vaishyas. But Kshatriya government and mercantile people keep everything in custody like bankers. Sab Brahmanon ka hai, but because Brahmanas have put them in custody of the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas, therefore they are taking care of it. Actually, everything belongs to Brahmanas. And therefore, no Brahmana had a doubt. How will I survive? They would completely depend on the Lord. And whenever they needed something, they would go to the king. And the king would supply whatever is needed. It is, Prabhupada writes, it is like a savings account with money, which the depositor can draw out at his will. So Brahmanon ने अपना saving account रखा है सब क्षत्रियों के पास. Wonderful. The Brahmanas being engaged in service of the Lord have very little time to handle the finances. And therefore the riches are kept by the Kshatriyas. Actually, Brahmanas do not live at others' cost. They live by spending their own money. That was the highest standards of the Brahminical culture, the Vedic civilization. And then Prabhupada in the next paragraph, he describes how about a devotee should not eat anything which is not prasad. Prabhupada writes about the glories of prasad and how outside food is not allowed. That is not Brahminical. Arey, same verse aa gaya.
27, 22-27.
22:47. यैरीदृशी भगवतो गतिरात्मवान एकान्ततो निगमभिप्रतिपादितानः दुष्यन्तदभ्रकरुणा सकृतेन नित्यम् को नाम तत्प्रतिकरोति विनोदपात्रम्.
How can this person who have rendered unlimited service by explaining the path of self-realization in relation to the supreme personality of Godhead, and who explanations are given for our enlightenment with complete conviction and Vedic evidence be repaid except by folded palms containing what for their satisfaction. Such great personalities can be satisfied only by their own activities, which are distributed amongst human society out of their unlimited mercy.
Yairidrishi Bhagavato Gatiratmavada. This path of self-realization, as explained by Gatir Atmavada, the knowers of the Vedas. Ekantato Nigamabhi Pratipadita, for our enlightenment. with complete conviction. This path is given by the knowers of the Vedas for our enlightenment. So he's telling all the four Kumaras that you have given this wonderful path for our enlightenment, and therefore you are so wonderful. Tushyanti adabra karuna. How can you be satisfied? There is only one way you can be satisfied. That is what Krishna tells the gopis. क्या बोलते हैं वो? You be satisfied with your devotional service. I cannot repay you. क्या word? I cannot repay you. न पा रहे हैं. I cannot repay you. So therefore they are saying swakritena nityam. You be satisfied with your own auspicious, benevolent, compassionate activities. Because you are adabra karuna. Adabra karuna means you are very, very magnanimous. Adabra karuna. तो भगवान को वेकिंग अप में भी एक श्लोक आता है ना, क्या बोलते हैं वेकिंग अप वाला श्लोक कैसे शुरू होता है? सोसा अदब्र करुणो भगवान विवृद्ध सोसा अदब्र करुणो. The Lord is also described the same. Adabra karuna. Adabra karuna means your mercy is unlimited. So the devotee's mercy is unlimited, Lord's mercy is unlimited. Tushyanti, please be satisfied with your unlimited mercy. Who can repay? Ko nama tat pratikaroti. Who can repay it? Nobody can repay. It is like offering water of Ganga to the Ganga only. And if somebody tries to do so, he becomes Vinod Patra. He becomes a joker. Chakravarti Thakur writes. This being so, it is not possible to repay the Guru even by offering everything. Nobody can repay. Even if somebody gives everything to the Guru, one cannot repay. Who can repay then? No one can repay. So what to do? Must just offer the water of Ganga to the Ganga only. Therefore I fold my hands and I am just simply offering water of Ganga to the Ganga. A person who tries to repay you is simply a laughing stock. Joker बनता है वो. So whatever the great personalities and the spiritual masters they are doing for us, it is unimaginable. They are really working hard. As Saraswati Thakur would say, it takes gallons of blood for one person to become a devotee. Preacher has to spend gallons of blood. Any other places where this theme has come that the great personalities are always merciful. They are working only for the welfare of people in general. तो 3 जगह आया है भागवतम में अभी तक. They always work for the welfare of people. उसके लिए काम करते हैं और कोई नहीं पर्पस है. ओके ठीक है.
जनस्य कृष्णा
ओके जनस्य कृष्णात् विमुखस्य दैवात् अधर्मशीलस्य सुदुःखितस्य अनुग्रहायेह चरन्ति नूनं भूतानि भव्यानि जनार्दनस्य. ओके ठीक है. ये आई थिंक विदुर जी बोल रहे हैं. जनस्य कृष्णात् विमुखस्य दैवात् Maitreya. Okay. Anywhere else? The great souls travel only for the welfare of people in general.
महाराज केस में भी आता है.
तुम्हारे किस में भी आता है? फर्स्ट कैंटो में कहाँ पे आता है? हाँ मैत्रेय का तो आता ही है. फर्स्ट कैंटो में कहाँ पे आता है? फर्स्ट कैंटो में आता है नहीं. भगवद्गीता भागवता तीर्थभूता स्वयं तीर्थ उसमें ये थीम नहीं आता है लेकिन बट सिमिलर. ओके. और 10th कैंटो में आता है महद विचलनम नृणाम विहीणाम दीन चेतसाम निश्रेयसाय भगवान कल्पते नन्यथा क्वचित. Nand Maharaj is telling to Gargacharya. Great personalities like you travel only for the welfare of people in general. They have no other reason. Okay, so many places it has come. So Prabhupada is writing that theme here. They are very eager to engage in welfare activity. The highest welfare activity is to make a living entity realize the relation with the Supreme Lord. Therefore, saintly persons like Kumar, Narad, Prahlad, Janak, Shukdev, Goswami, Kapiladev, and all the authorities, Vaishnava Acharyas, They render a valuable service to humanity by disseminating knowledge of the Supreme Lord. Knowledge of Krishna is such a great gift that it is impossible to repay the benefactor. Nobody can repay whatever we are receiving from our predecessor acharyas. That's the best charity we can do. That's what gopis they are saying. कहाँ पे आते हैं ये? गोपी गीत में आता है ना? The preachers are the greatest welfare workers. Huh? भूरिदा जना तव कथामृतम दप्त जीवनम उसमें ना लास्ट भूविगणन्ते भूरिदा. They are the greatest welfare. That's what Mahaprabhu glorifies Ramanand Rai. Bhurida, Bhurida, you made me remember Krishna. You are most magnanimous. So we should be always grateful for whatever we have received. To be grateful is not a part of bhakti. To be grateful is bhakti. Be grateful for whatever we have received. Gratitude is very, very important. Otherwise, if somebody is not grateful, he is a great fool. Yes. There is one verse also. One is not kritagya. Kritagya kono seveta duraradhyam asadubhi. Only a wicked person is not grateful. Otherwise, we have to be grateful for whatever we have received. Okay, so now Maitreya Muni continues. Maitreya uvacha Tatma yoga pataya Adinajena pujita Shilam tadiyam samsantaha Kebhavan mishatam nrinam.
Worship of Maharaj, the both Maharaj who were masters of devotion, became and praised the character of everyone.
Atma yoga patayaha. They were the masters of devotional service. So Prabhupada, he is very, very careful never to give any confusing translations or purports. Yoga pataya means they are अभी तक वो लोग प्योर डिवोटी नहीं है. They are still ज्ञानी भक्ति ज्ञान मिश्र भक्तस. So Prabhupada is not translating yoga pataya means the masters of self-realization only. Masters of devotional service लिख रहे. So that's how Prabhupada's genius is. He always makes sure that there is no confusion which remains after reading. अच्छा ये करें कि वो करें. So these Kumaras, they became very pleased with the Ritu Maharaj. They appeared in the sky because they never touched the ground. The demigods, they never touched the surface. And that's how Kumaras were also not touching the ground. They're always in the sky. So Prabhupada writes how the Siddhas also, they don't touch the ground. They do not require any machine to travel. Okay, next verse. Vainyastu dhuryo mahatam संस्थिताध्यात्म शिक्षया आप्तकामं विवात्मानं येन आत्मन्यवस्थितः.
Great personalities, Maharaj Prithvi was achieved by virtue of his fixed position in relation to future enlightenment. He remains satisfied as one who has achieved all success in spiritual understanding.
Vainyastu dhuryo mahatam. So this Vainya means Ritu Maharaj, he was great amongst all the great personalities. He was chief. Samsthita Adhyatma Sikshaya. How he became so great? Because he was fixed in his spiritual enlightenment. Aptakamam, he was self-satisfied. Mena Atmanyavasthitaha. He remains satisfied as one who has achieved all success in spiritual understanding. Atma Avasthitaha. So that's how a person who is fixed in devotional service is always satisfied. That is a side product of devotees behavior. A devotee who is always fixed in Krishna, he is naturally satisfied. Krishna Bhakta Nishikama Ataiva Shanta. Actually, self-satisfaction can be achieved only by pure devotees. Then Prabhupada writes how everybody is hankering for things of the world. Nobody is satisfied with whatever they get. Kamanalam madhulavai shamayandurapay, as Prahlad Maharaj says, the desire is like the burning inferno of fire. Never get satisfied. How much amount of fuel you put into it, it can devour everything. That is the quality of lust. Bhagavad Gita में कहाँ बोलते हैं इसका? Kama, the desires, the lust is like a avritam jnanametena jnanino nitya vairinam kama rupena kaunteya dushpurena analena cha. It is like a fire. Any amount of fuel you put into it. But a devotee only can subdue this desire, this fire. So Prabhupada describes our Mahatmas because the word used here is Mahatam, Mahatmanastu Mampath. Karmani cha yatah kalam yatha desham yatha balam yathochitam yatha vittam akarod brahma sakritam.
Being satisfied, Maharaja Prabhu executed his duties as perfectly as possible, according to the time and his situation, strength and financial position. His only aim in all his activities was to satisfy the absolute truth. In this way, he duly succeeded.
So from 49th verse, now Kumaras have departed, they have left. Now 49th to 55th. Maitreya Muni is describing the glorious rule of Prithu Maharaj. How Prithu Maharaj ruled his kingdom. 49th verse, he said he is fixed in devotional service. He was Apta Kama. That's the quality of the Raj Rishis. They are always self-satisfied. But they were very, very ambitious for Krishna's pleasure. For Krishna's pleasure, they will do anything and everything. So Yudhishthira Maharaj was not doing Rajasuya Yajna for his own sense gratification. He was doing Rajasuya for what? He wanted to prove that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. They would rule kingdom, they would win over other countries so that everybody can become Krishna conscious. Personally, they had no desires. So this verse, he describes the duties. Apart from bhakti, he was doing so many other activities. According to Desh Kala Patra. Yatha Kala, Desha, Bala, Vitta. According to Desh Kal Patra, according to his financial position, he was expert in his duties. So a devotee is always expert. One of the quality of a devotee is he is daksha. Daksha means expert. Not just in the spiritual life, in the material life as well. ऐसा नहीं ठीक है मेरे को तो चैंटिंग करना है, दैट इज द मेन थिंग, ऑफिस में कुछ भी करो चलता है. नो, devotee should be expert. That's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur was, so expert that उनके लिए एक रेल बना दिया हम लोगों ने, British government. That's how the devotee should be expert in his. That's how Raghunath Das Goswami was. He was so expert in worldly dealings that he became the mediator. मुगल लोग उनके पिताजी और चाचा को लेके जाने वाले थे. He said, अरे बाबा क्या, what is the problem? He solved the problem. Expert. That's how the devotee is expert in his worldly dealings also. Of course, it is not everyone's nature. कुछ लोगों का रहता है वो nature, कुछ लोगों का नहीं रहता है. That's why Mahaprabhu told him, किसको बोले कि शिवानंद सेन को बोले ना कि भाई किसका फाइनेंशियल वाला देखने के लिए. नहीं, शिवानंद सेन को बोले कि वासुदेव दत्त का देखो कि मुकुंद का. He doesn't know how to manage his household. You please take care of his finances. किसी को बोले ना, because not everybody is expert in handling the worldly dealings. तो महाप्रभु knew किसको क्या सेवा देना है. Mahaprabhu, he handpicked the best of the people to execute his movement. But all these 6 Goswamis, they are not ordinary people. They were not just bhajananandis, they were expert in worldly dealings also. Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, finance minister, chief minister, politician, Raghunath Das Goswami, the son of a billionaire, Gopal Bhatta Goswami is son of the chief priest of Srirangam temple, Tapan Mishra, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, who he is the son of the chief priest of Varanasi. ऐसे बड़े बड़े लोगों को पकड़ गए चलो you have to execute my movement because bhakti individual level anybody can do, but if we have to make an institution we need experts. फिर उसके लिए ऐसा भजनानंद नहीं चलेगा. So that's how some devotees have there. That is है ना. तो that is fact ना. Individual bhakti तो कोई भी कर लेगा अपना. चलो कोई भी मतलब doesn't require material skills to run an institution, to spread Krishna consciousness. You need experts in the outside world. तो महाप्रभु ने ऐसा चुन चुन के सबको लेके सबको बोला चलो सब वृंदावन जाओ. वो तपन मिश्र बेचारे बांग्लादेश में बैठा था. उनको बोला आप जाओ वाराणसी जाओ. पर ये बोल रहे वाराणसी मेरे को मायावादियों के बीच में क्यों भेज रहे हैं? बस महाप्रभु had a mission.
Prabhupada also in the last para, it is written Nagaradi Grammar Center में लिखा था प्रमाण में कि Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur is supposed to them, they are we are following their path.
Okay, so Prabhupada writes, Prithu Maharaj was a responsible monarch. He executed his Kshatriya duties nicely. He was a perfect devotee. He knew how to make the citizens also Krishna conscious. So in this regard, Karmani is significant. So Prithu Maharaj's activities, they are not ordinary. He's not doing material activities. All his activities were only for the pleasure of the Lord. That is called as Yukta Vairagya. Prabhupada quotes that Rupa Goswami, Yukta Vairagya. Okay. Prithu Maharaj performed his royal duties as king. Indeed, whatever he did as emperor was perfectly benefiting a devotee. One should not make some predisposed ideas, previous imposed ideas कि वैष्णव मतलब ऐसे ही होने चाहिए. We may have some Vaishnavas who may not fit in our so-called क्या बोलते हैं उसको model of Vaishnav. कि वैष्णव मतलब ऐसा ही होना चाहिए. Some Vaishnavas they may have different nature. That's what Prabhupada is quoting. This Prithu Maharaj, he was doing such wonderful monarchical activities, but he was a best devotee also. He was not a karmi. He was not an ordinary king. Vaishnavara kriya mudra vigyeha na bujhaye. In order to understand the activities of Vaishnava, one has to become very expert. Not everyone can understand the activities of a Vaishnava. Okay. You go to the next verse. So Prithu Maharaj, first, he did his duties apart from his devotional service. He did it nicely. What was the mood behind all these duties? That is described in the next verse. Phalam brahmani sanyasya nirvishanga samahitaha कर्माध्यक्षं च मन्वाना आत्मानं प्रकृते परम्
Maharaj Prithu completely dedicated himself to be an eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, transcendental to material nature. Consequently, all the fruits of his activities were dedicated to the Lord, and he always thought of himself as a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the proprietor of everything.
Prithu Maharaj, Phalam Brahmani Sanyasya, he gave up all the results of his activities. Nirvishangaha Samahitaha, completely dedicated, without being contaminated. And he was always thinking of the Lord. Atmanam Prakrite Param. He was always thinking himself as the servant of the Lord and executing all the duties in that mood. So I am servant of the Lord. Whatever I am doing, the results should be offered to the Lord only. That was the mood of this Prithu Maharaj always. So Prabhupada writes, this is good example of karma yoga. That is phalam brahmani sanyasya, giving up the results of all the activities. Sanyasya. Prabhupada quotes this verse from Bhagavad Gita. What is the actual sannyas? Kamyanam karmanam nyasam sannyasam kavayo vidu. What is sannyas? Some people say the renounced order of life. But in that renounced order, what happens? Sarva karma phalatyaga prahustyagam vichakshana. To give up the results of all the activities is called tyaga. And that state is called sannyas. So Maharaj Prithu, he was actually doing all these activities for the pleasure of the Lord. He was sannyasi. Sannyas is not just the external clothes. Sannyas is the attitude which a householder should also have. All the activities for the pleasure of the Lord. Nirvishangaha is very significant. It means he was not attached. All the activities of Krishna consciousness should be done for Krishna's pleasure. That is called as nirvishangaha. Not affected, not attached. And then Prabhupada writes how when the fruit of one's activities are rendered to the service of the Lord, one is actually practicing karma yoga. Anyone can practice karma yoga, but it is especially easy for the householder who can install deity at the home and worship. That is the easiest way to practice karma yoga because you are focused. You are aware that whatever I am doing, it is for the pleasure of the Lord who is in the home. Then Prabhupada writes about the deity worship in little more detail. He describes how a devotee, by practicing karma yoga in this way, actually becomes detached, and he is, while living in this world, he is liberated. So, what is that word? Living in this world but liberated. Karmana manasa gira nikhlashobhi avasthasu Jivan Mukta. He is Jivan Mukta. Prabhupada writes that in the purport. He is Jivan Mukta. So devotee who is practicing karma yoga, offering all the results to the Lord, he is actually Jivan Mukta because he is living only for the pleasure of the Lord. Nothing else. Next verse. Gृहेषु वर्तमानोऽपि स्वसाम्राज्ये श्रियान्वितः न सज्जतेन्द्रियार्थेषु
Bhakteshu
मतिरभ्रवात्.
Yaham Maharaj Prithu, who was very opulent due to prosperity of his entire empire, remained at home as a householder. Since he was never inclined to utilize his opulences for the gratification of his senses, he remained unattached, exactly like the sun, which is unaffected in all the circumstances.
That is the quality of a pure devotee always. Wherever he is, in whatever situation he may be, he is always detached, never affected. Sun can evaporate water from all the filthy places, but he never gets affected. It never happens that wife of sun says, "Ah, smell alright." He's So he is always unaffected. That's why the Lord is also called as Shuddham and Apapa Viddham. प्रभुपाद ने वो ईशोपनिषद में क्या वर्ड लिखते हैं इन दोनों के लिए? बहुत अच्छा वर्ड लिखते हैं, मेडिकल टर्म लिखते हैं उसमें. शुद्धम एंड पाप विद्धम. He is मैं भूल रहा हूँ एक मिनट रुको. Prophylactic and antiseptic. शुद्धम and apapa viddham. He can never be affected by anything of the world. Prabhupada, so he is from that background, ना तो ऐसा use करते हैं terms prophylactic and antiseptic. So devotee also is never affected. That's why Shukdev Goswami Parikshit Maharaj asked about Priyavrat Maharaj. In the canto it comes. Priyavrat Maharaj, he was living in the ashram of Narad Muni. Then कोई राजा नहीं है, दक्ष चले गए यज्ञ करने, तपस्या करने. Then Swayambhu Manu goes and Brahmaji goes and brings him back and makes him king. तो Priyavrat Maharaj, Parikshit Maharaj पूछते हैं एक मिनट, ये ऐसा कैसे हो गया? He was a renunciant. शादी कैसे कर लिया? चलो भाई शादी कर लिया, उसके बाद आप बोल रहे हैं you are still detached, you are still liberated. ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है? So then Narad Muni describes the glories of devotional service. While staying in the household life also one can be detached. It's a matter of our disposition. The externals, they don't matter. So all the great kings, they are actually having this disposition. They are detached. Nothing for ours. Nispriha. Avikpalat Dharmaraja Pitrivat Ranjayam Praja Nispriha Sarva Kamebhyo Krishna Padanu Sevaya. Yudhishthir Maharaj is also described like this Nispriha. No material desires. So Prabhupada elaborates on this. Arkavat. Sun shines on stool, urine and other polluted things. Never gets affected. The sunshine sterilizes and purifies polluted and dirty places. Similarly, a devotee may engage in material activities, but because he has no desire for sense gratification, they never affect him. In fact, all the happiness and distress which comes in the life of a devotee, it is not because of his previous pious or sinful activities. Fifth, all the happiness and distress a devotee undergoes is given by the Lord. It is not karma. It is only the arrangement of the Lord. And even by experiencing the joys, one is not bound. A devotee is not bound by karma. Because karma से आया ही नहीं ना वो किससे आया? भगवान ने दिया है. All the happiness and distress which a devotee goes through, it is given by the Lord only. A devotee does not take birth according to his karma. Karmana daiva netrena jantu dehopapattaye. सुना है ना? It is not for devotee. Devotee does not take birth because of his previous karma. Devotee takes birth as organized by the Lord.
For devotees like Prabhupada.
Any devotee. Anybody who has pure faith. Not talking about Shuddha Bhakta. Pure faith means भगवान कृष्ण भगवान मानते हैं और चैंटिंग करेंगे और कुछ नहीं करेंगे साथ में ओम नमः शिवाय वो सब. That is called a Shuddha faith. Okay. Depending on the Lord in all situations.
Such implicit faith.
Implicit faith, the level of that faith may be different.
The weak and strong.
The weak and strong, that is different thing. Weak faith and strong faith. But still weak faith is also pure faith, right? थोड़ा सा pure या ज्यादा pure? Pure है ना? Half glass water and 1 tank water. Half glass water is also pure water. And tank of water is also pure water. What differs? Quantity of faith. ये भी pure है, वो भी pure है.
Maintain purity.
You know? ठीक है. हाँ, सबके चेहरे पे क्वेश्चन मार्क दिख रहा है.
What I understand is, little pure faith also will.
Little pure faith is more important than having tons of mixed faith. Okay.
Mixed faith means having faith in other people.
हाँ, मैं कर्म भी कर लूं, ये देवता की पूजा कर लूं, वो भी कर लूं. That is mixed. Why I am practicing bhakti? वो थर्ड कैंटो में पढ़ा ना हमने, विविक्त श्वेत क्या होता है? सत्वगुणी, रजोगुणी, तमोगुणी भक्ति। मिश्र भक्ति क्या है? सत्वगुणी भक्ति क्यों कर रहे हैं? आई वांट टू मर्ज, किसी को जाना है ब्रह्म। रजोगुणी भक्ति, आई वांट नेम, फेम, प्रेस्टीज, एडोरेशन, डिस्टिंक्शन, दैट इज ओनली इंटेंशन। ऐसा कुछ है नहीं। आई वांट टू प्रैक्टिस भक्ति बिकॉज आई वांट टू किल दिस डिवोटी। I am envious of this devotee. I want to do harm to this devotee. ऐसा कोई है? So what type of bhakti we are practicing? मिश्र भक्ति तो नहीं कर रहे हैं, शुद्ध भक्ति कर रहे हैं ना. Faith is pure. I may not be pure in terms of my anarthas, but bhakti is pure. I am practicing pure bhakti only. ठीक है? कर्माणि निर्दहति किंतु जो भक्ति भाजाम, मैं तो कब से शुरू से ही बोल रहा हूँ ना, हर क्लास में एक बार बोलता हूँ मैं, क्योंकि मुझे मालूम है वो नहीं, मुझे ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है? अपने विश्वास
अपने आप पे डाउट है,
अपने अपने नहीं, डाउट भक्ति पे है. We are not so fixed in the understanding of the power of bhakti. That's why we have doubts.
So, Prabhuji, what you're telling, we agree. We don't know where we stand. That's why we keep on asking this question again.
अरे where we stand मतलब मैं तो बता रहा हूँ ना, हम we may be the most fallen devotees, but still our faith is pure. Okay, that we should be very careful, very clear.
अब भक्ति वैभव ऑर्गेनाइज करना,
I may be नहीं, not just bhakti or any simple devotee who is chanting 16 rounds with faith, not just 16 rounds also. माला शुरू किया उसने having faith, और से तो कृष्ण की पूजा करनी है और किसी की पूजा. That pure faith can become mixed faith at any moment.
Right?
If that बेचारा weak devotee किसी और devotee के पास में आएगा, बोलेगा तेरा लाइफ में प्रॉब्लम चल रहा है, तेरा एक काम कर, शनि ग्रह है तेरा, ये तो पूजा कर, उसका फेथ मिक्स हो गया. So it should be very careful to protect our weak pure faith. Otherwise our weak pure faith will become mixed faith. ठीक है? That is important. For a Shuddha Bhakta, his faith will never become mixed. For a Kanishta, his pure faith may become mixed faith. वो शुद्ध भक्ति से मिश्र भक्ति पे आ सकता है. So that is what we should be careful of. Staying in the devotee community, we should be careful to avoid association of those devotees who have mixed faith. Sorry to say, even in ISKCON, we have people who have mixed faith. सब लोग शुद्ध भक्ति नहीं करते हैं यहाँ पे. And there are people who are ready to add contaminations. ये कर लो, वो कर लो. कृष्ण भक्ति से नहीं होगा ऐसा बाबा. कृष्ण भक्ति तो केवल प्रेम के लिए है, और बाकी लाइफ की प्रॉब्लम कौन सॉल्व करेगा? वो शनिदेव के पास जाओ, राहु है, केतु है, सब दोष है, ये सब कौन सॉल्व करेगा आपका? ये भक्ति से नहीं होगा, कृष्ण से नहीं होगा. ये
नहीं ऐसा बोलते कि कृष्ण को क्यों डिस्टर्ब कर रहे
कृष्ण को क्यों डिस्टर्ब करना है, ऐसा बोलते हैं. कृष्ण को क्यों डिस्टर्ब करना है? हम लोग कृष्ण के लिए, कृष्ण के पास केवल भक्ति करने के लिए जाएंगे. अरे बाबा, व्हाट आर वी डूइंग? यो यो याम याम तनुम भक्ता श्रद्धयार्चितुम इच्छति तस्य तस्य अचला श्रद्धा तामेव विदधाम्यहम्. कृष्ण बोलते हैं 7 chapter 22nd verse भगवद गीता. If you are going to a particular devta, putting faith in them, I will make your faith strong in that devta only. हाँ, आप उसके पास ही जा रहे हो तो उसमें ही श्रद्धा रखो. कृष्णा इज अ जेलस गॉड. मेरे पास आना है तो मेरे पास जाओ खाली. Not in that sense jealous. That means he facilitates our desires. भाई चलो, क्या चाहिए आपको? उधर जाना है, जाओ ना, मैं आपका फेथ उसमें बना देता हूँ, चलो. You should be careful.
People say, Prabhuji, that we are not pure devotee, so we have to.
We are not pure devotee. We are not pure devotee, but the bhakti we are practicing is pure. और ऐसा नहीं बोल रहे हैं अभी आज के बाद भक्ति में हमको बताया गया हम शुद्ध भक्त हो गए. We are not pure, but our bhakti is pure, our faith is pure. We have anarthas ना, है ना, काम क्रोध लोभ मोह सब तो भरा हुआ है. मतलब मैं अपनी बात तो बोल सकता हूँ. They are not pure in that sense. But the path we are practicing is pure. Our faith is pure. Otherwise,
So whatever happens in our life is ordained by Krishna.
by Krishna. Only Krishna.
Not Brahma.
एक बहुत बड़ा परपोर्ट मैंने कल ही भक्ति वैभव में दूसरा हमने डिस्कस किया है 6th कैंटो निकल अभी जितना भी टाइम है ना आई स्पेंड 2 hours डिस्कसिंग दैट वन परपोर्ट ऑफ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर इतना बड़ा परपोर्ट है 6th कैंटो 2nd chapter 10th verse ह्यूज परपोर्ट चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर राइट्स मतलब वो एक परपोर्ट पढ़ के it will take 2 hours to discuss that purport. All the intricacies of karma और devotee के जीवन में क्या होता है, क्यों होता है, कैसे होता है, everything is described there. और जामिल का है ना पूरा स्टोरी है वो. 6 to 10.
9 and 10.
बड़ा परपोर्ट है. चक्रवर्ती प्रभुपाद कुछ परपोर्ट नहीं देते हैं उसको और चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर writes a huge purport to this verse. So Ajamil was a pure devotee. प्योर डिवोटी था उसके बारे में ये सब चर्चा चल रही है कि जो भी हो रहा है उसके जीवन में क्यों हो रहा है so we should understand the path of bhakti we are practicing it is all powerful it is not just powerful it is all powerful Krishna is all powerful and the path of bhakti is also all powerful आप लोग पढ़ सकते हैं बाद में इस घर जाके उसमें से 50% ज्यादा नहीं समझेगा मेरे को भी समझने के लिए 4-5 बार पढ़ना पड़ा था उसको सो वेरी टेक्निकल परपोर्ट है बट वेरी पावरफुल परपोर्ट इट इज सो दैट्स हाउ वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस प्रिंसिपल एनी डाउट्स क्वेश्चन कमेंट्स
So, Prabhuji, but we have taken birth, whatever situation we are in, that is based on our karma, or it is based on God's will. We were
see if we were not practicing devotees then it is because of our karma
in the past.
yeah if we have acquired devotion now because of the mercy of devotees then maybe it was karma but nobody can say but the principle we should be clear devotee है devotion भक्ति कर लिया so भक्ति करने से कर्म तो नष्ट हो गए then the next birth is based on Krishna's will all the good and bad things happening in the life of a devotee is Krishna's will to intensify our devotion आप एक अच्छा एग्जांपल देते हैं चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर in that purport a doctor expert doctor knows he tells the patient to fast and he gives bitter medicine so that his appetite improves similarly Krishna puts his devotees into distress suffering to increase their desperation to practice devotional service और उसमें holy names के ऊपर बहुत अच्छा बोलते हैं in that Chakravarti Thakur writes of the 10 offenses this Guru Avagya sorry first Vaishnava Aparadh and fourth क्या है sorry fourth नहीं to give interpretation to the holy names of the Lord they are very very dangerous one should never have doubts इतना नहीं होता होगा holy names one suffers because of that others anarthas other offenses we may not suffer but he says ये दो चीजों की वजह से ना suffering आता है लाइफ में डिवोटी के वैष्णव अपराध किया
And to give interpretation on the whole. We don't give any interpretation.
दूसरा मेरे को आई एम नॉट श्योर
To consider
We may not-
Hare Krishna.
नहीं आई एम नॉट रिमेम्बरिंग द अदर शायद वही है we doubt we think यार
Think of
इतना
the-
नहीं होता होगा
Down on the
पता नहीं कुछ तो होता होगा बट इतना तो नहीं होता होगा you know
power
so
of
basically if you read that you will find Chakravarti Thakur writes that again it's one of so therefore it is very very important to understand the intricacies of devotion so that we at least are convinced about it
तो मुझे प्रारब्ध और प्रारब्ध का क्या डिवोटीज में तो अप्रारब्ध का कोई मतलब ही नहीं है।
नहीं मैं तो डे वन से वही बोल रहा हूँ
But they're so tuned to telling कुछ भी हो गया तो because of my bad karma.
हाँ तो वही ना, no, see, as a
Even that's why we are.
as a humility, if we say that, okay, even if we say karma, that is our karma we are practicing in bhakti. Bhakti के भी कर्म होते हैं ना. What is karma? Activity, right? Karma has many connotations, okay? Karma means the principle of action reaction. Karma means any activity. Karma means जो फल जो मिल रहा है उसको भी कर्म बोल देते हैं. So if हम लोग मतलब of course हम लोग शुरू से वही बोलते हुए आ रहे हैं ना, कर्मों का फल है, कर्मों का फल है. We have to understand that ये कर्म जो है ये they are not the results of our fruitive activities. They are the results of our activities we have done in bhakti. उसमें जो कर्म किए हमने उसका फल है. जो पाप नहीं अपराध कर्म किए हैं और उसमें इतना अच्छा बोलते हैं a devotee, even if they do sin, after doing bhakti, पाप करेगा ना, वो पाप का फल नहीं मिलता है उसको. It is like a bite of the toothless snake, but that doesn't give him a license to do sin. Then it becomes what? Then it becomes नामनो बलाद यस्य पाप बुद्धि. उसको फिर फल मिलेगा, उसका कर्म मिलेगा उसको. Ajamil, he didn't know any glories of the names of the Lord. His chanting was offenseless. उसने अपने बच्चे का नाम नारायण ये सोच के नहीं रखा कि मैं नारायण नाम लूंगा पाप से मुक्त हो जाऊंगा. अगर वो नाम ये सोच के नाम रखता ना तो उसको ऐसा फल नहीं मिलता था. Most of the people when they put their names of their children on names of God, क्यों? फिर पाप से तो मुक्ति होगी. You are using names of the Lord for ulterior purpose. That is an offense. समझे? अजामिल ने ऐसा पाप किया ही नहीं, अपराध किया ही नहीं, उसने नाम लिया ही नहीं उसका, ये सोच के नहीं रखा कि भाई मैं मुक्त हो जाऊंगा. एंड वो तो बोलते हैं the day one Ajamil called out his son's name Narayan, उसी दिन उसके सब पाप धुल गए. उसने पहला नाम लिया ना अपने बच्चे का नारायण, that was offenseless chanting. वो नामाभास chanting से he became purified of all the sins. तो यमदूत बोलते हैं उसके बाद तो पाप किया ना उसने. अरे बाबा उसके बाद जो भी पाप किया that was a bite of a toothless snake. उससे कुछ नहीं हुआ उसको. And after that, whatever name he chanted, Narayan, that produced bhakti. पहले तो पाप से मुक्त हो गया ना, उसके बाद वाले नाम से क्या हुआ? भक्ति बढ़ी उसकी. That this purport is really out of the world. ऐसा मजा आएगा वो purport पढ़ेगा तो. Okay, यहाँ पे है ये, मैं बताता हूँ. Among the other offenses, the two are very strong. Offending devotees and committing sin or strength of chanting. नामनो बला देसे पाप, दो वाला है. Okay, ठीक है. ठीक है ना?
बढ़िया.
बढ़िया है.
क्योंकि वर्षा का बिल जो तो भी वर्षा का भी हुआ कुछ बोला उसने या हमने कुछ.
That's a very big challenge.
That's why managers have to be really careful. Managers को ज्यादा मार पड़ती है.
In one word, it is mentioned अपराध is you are being intentional. In one.
नहीं, unintentional अपराध से भी ना.
That doesn't.
Unintentional अपराध से क्या होता है मालूम है?
Your bhakti becomes slow down or something.
नहीं. If you are not intentionally offending a devotee, मैनेजमेंट में आपने डिसीजन लिया और बेचारे किसी को बुरा लगा, तो आपकी क्या गलती है? तो क्या होगा उसका इफेक्ट? क्या होगा उससे? Any thoughts? Managers बैठे सभी. Your bhakti will not be affected, but you will suffer materially. That happens. Material suffering will come. Health, family, finance, whatever. Material. Spiritually you will not suffer. Chitraketu ne he offended intentionally or unintentionally? His bhakti was not affected. On the contrary, his bhakti became more powerful. But materially he was affected. तो क्या करें? Managers, they have to pay a price. सेवा भी करो, मार भी खाओ. That's what we have to do. So we have to be really careful.
It's better do seva, but don't do.
But don't do management. ऐसा भी नहीं कर सकते.
do chanting.
That is a selfless service a manager has to do. Okay, आगे बढ़े. कौन सी श्लोक पे थे हम लोग? 52. Okay. एवं अध्यात्म योगेन कर्माण्यनुसमाचरन् पुत्रानुत्पादयामास आत्मसम्मतान्
The liberated position of devotional service, Prithu Maharaj not only performed all fruitive activities but also begot 5 sons by his wife Archie. Indeed, all the sons were begotten according to his own desire.
Okay. Evam adhyatma yogena, by the means of his bhakti yoga, karmani anusamacharan, he was always executing his devotional activities. Putran utpadayamasa. So not only performed all the fruitive activities, he begot also 5 sons. Pancha, Archishya. His wife was Archi, he begot 5 sons. And all his sons were begotten according to his own desire. Atma Sammatan. So Atma Sammatan means he begot them in right consciousness, according to his own desire, following all the samskaras. Yatha yoni yatha bijam. A child who is begotten out of lust may not turn out as per parents' desire. Okay, so Prabhupada writes about the Garbhadhan and how the consciousness affects the birth. Vijitashvam dhumrakesham Haryakesham dravinam vrikam Haryaksham dravinam shrukvrikam सर्वेषां लोकपालानां दधारैकै पृथुर्गुणान्.
Different 5 sons named Vitaswa, Mukesha, Harikesha, Dravina, and Brooke. Prithu Maharaj continued to rule the planet. He accepted all the qualities of the deities who govern all other planets.
He actually performed the duties of all the other demigods also, Surya, Chandra, and all that. Gopithaya Jagat Srishte Kale Sve Swachyutatmakaha Manovat Vrittivi Saumyai Sanranjayan Praja.
Since Maharaj Prithu was a perfect devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he wanted to protect the Lord's creation by pleasing the various citizens according to their various desires. Therefore, Prithu Maharaj used to please them in all respects by his words, mentality, works, and gentle behavior.
So Prithu Maharaj, he was the expert king. He was pleasing the citizens also accordingly, wonderfully. So he is taking such hard work, such efforts to please the citizens according to their desires, whatever they wanted, according to their mentality, he would satisfy them. So that is the extraordinary capacity of Prithu Maharaj to satisfy all the citizens. Not ordinary king, no ordinary king can do this. So whatever a citizen wanted, according to his desire, he would supply them. Not possible for anyone else, because he was a representative of the Lord, he could do this. He knew that he was representative of the Lord and Lord's creation must be protected intelligently. Atheists cannot understand the purpose behind the creation. So he was always very careful that ultimately the citizens should understand the purpose of their life. That they have to go back home, back to Godhead. That is the duty of the ruler. That is what last line, second last line Prabhupada writes in the first paragraph. It is duty of the ruler to satisfy them in their sense enjoyment as well as to elevate them to Krishna consciousness so that they all can ultimately return back home. Okay. Rajyetyadha namadheyam Somaraja ivaparaha
Somaraja Ivapara Sujata
tapamcha
But Prithu became a very good king at Somarata, king of humans. He was also powerful and ecstatic. Just like a sun god who distributes heat and light at the same time, extracts on the planetary waters.
So that's how Prithu Maharaj he became powerful as sun and moon. He did all their duties single-handedly. Next verse, translation.
Only one question.
Yeah.
Chandramosha आएगा क्या नहीं पूछे Prithu Maharaj.
Chandravamsa and Suryavamsa started after this Pururava and Unka. Ikshvaku, उनके बाद में आ गया सूर्य और चंद्र वंश. Because Chandra he begot Pururava and that lineage became Chandra Vamsha. And Surya Vamsha का भी है ऐसा. 9th canto अब में detail आता है. I'm not remembering. I'm not sure about that. So here Chandra Vamsha and Surya Vamsha ऐसा कुछ question नहीं है. Translation please.
Maharaj Prithu was so strong and powerful that one could disobey his orders any more than no one could disobey his orders any more than one could conquer fire itself. He was so strong that he was compared to Indra, the king of heaven, whose power is inseparable. On the other hand, Maharaj Prithu was also as tolerant as the earth and in fulfilling various desires of human society. He was like heaven itself.
So in the first canto also the qualities of Parikshit Maharaj described. In this he was like this and all these qualities. In terms of forbearance, he was like Mother Earth and all that. So that's how Prithu is also described. Next verse translation.
Sustained rainfall satisfies everyone's desires. Maharaj Prithu used to satisfy everyone. He was like the sea in that no one could understand his depths. And he was like Meru, the pinch of winds in the fixity of his purpose.
Next.
Maharaj Prithu's intelligence and education were exactly like that of Maharaj, the superintendent of death. His opulence was comparable to the Himalaya mountains, where all valuable jewels and metals were stocked. He possessed great riches like Kuvera, the treasure of the heavenly planets. No one could reveal his secrets, for they were like the demigod Varunas.
Varuna had a lot of secrets.
Nobody knows what is in the depth of the ocean. It's secret. Prabhupada writes in the purport something about Varuna. Varuna is omniscient, and since he punishes sins, he is prayed to for forgiveness. He is also the sender of disease and is often associated with Mitra and Indra. So that is the power of Varuna Dev. Okay, next verse, translation.
Body the strength and the strength of his senses, Maharaj Prithu was as strong as the wind, which can go anywhere and everywhere. As far as intolerance was concerned, it was just like the all-powerful Rudra expanding on the Arjuna.
Next.
His bodily beauty was just like Cupid, and his household life he was like a lion.
In this affection, he was just like Swayambhu Manu, and in his ability to control, he was like Lord Brahma.
Next.
In his personal whereabouts, Prithu Maharaj exhibited all good qualities and spiritual knowledge. He was exactly like Brihaspati in self-control. He was like the supreme personality of God himself. As far as his devotional service was concerned, he was a great follower of devotees who were attached to cow protection and the rendering of all services to the spiritual master and the Brahmanas. He was perfect in his shyness and in his gentle behavior. And when he engaged in some philanthropical activities, he worked as if he were working for his own personal self.
Mhm. Okay. Next verse, translation.
Throughout the whole universe, in the higher, lower, and middle planetary systems, Ritu Maharaj's reputation was loudly declared, and all ladies and saintly persons heard his glories, which were as sweet as the glories of Lord Ramachandra.
Yes. Ah, yes, but
Thoughtfulness like lines. Thoughtfulness of light.
thoughtfulness like lion,
Why did we show it?
because nobody could understand what he is thinking. Cannot assess. No. A grave person means मन में क्या चल रहा है समझ नहीं रहा है.
Maharaj कभी अटक करेगा.
It is very difficult to understand what is going on in the mind of this person. That is called as gravity. A lion has that gravity. Nobody can understand what is going on in the mind of the lion. So that's how Prithu Maharaj's reputation, it was spread out all over the universe. Upper, middle, lower planet systems. Everybody, all the ladies and saintly people heard his glories, which were very sweet, like Lord Ram. Prabhupada writes. In this verse, the words Srinam and Rama are significant. It's practiced among the ladies to hear and enjoy the praises of certain heroes. It comes in the first canto also when Krishna, he entered Dwarka. Dwarka कहाँ था? ये हस्तिनापुर का था. Kauravendra Strinam. Kauravendra means Hastinapur. As Krishna is entering Hastinapur, all the ladies. अन्योन्यामासीत संजल्प उत्तम श्लोक चेतसाम कौरवेन्द्रपुर स्त्रीणाम सर्वा श्रुति मनोहरा. So all the ladies, they climb on the rooftops and they are discussing the glories of Krishna. Their talks, although they were not just talking some praises of the Vedas and all complicated things, they are casually talking, but their praises, their words were sarva shruti manohara. They are more pleasant than the shrutis. So that is what is described. The ladies, they like to hear and enjoy the praises of heroes. From this verse, it appears that Ritu Maharaj's reputation was so great that ladies all over the universe would hear of it with great pleasure. At the same time, his glories were heard all over the universe by the devotees. They were as pleasing as Lord Ram. That is the end of this chapter. Next chapter is, I think, छोटा सा ही. Anyway, इसमें test नहीं है ना?
नहीं.
हाँ, so we'll start the next chapter also. This time. कितने श्लोक हैं इसमें?
Praying Lord Shiva is not in Vaishnava, maybe Shmisha, no? It is a great Vaishnava.
What are you praying? That is important.
We can pray to any Lord first.
Gopis are there, right?
Okay, so now the next chapter is Maharaj Prithu is going back home. So after Prithu Maharaj, he performed all his duties nicely, took care of all the citizens, like the children. Ultimately, Prithu Maharaj, he retires. In first 18 verses, Prithu Maharaj's retirement, Vanprastha life, his austerities, and ultimately his departure is described. Okay, we'll quickly start reading the translations only. Yes. नहीं देखते हैं कितना कोई बात नहीं आप टेंशन मत लीजिए
Already lagging behind with 7 chapters.
7 चैप्टर हो गया ठीक है कोई Yes, translation please.
At the last days of his life, when Maharaj Prithu was himself getting old, that
Saw himself getting old.
saw himself getting old, that great soul who was king of the world divided whatever opulence he had accumulated among all kinds of living entities, moving and non-moving. He arranged for
Pensions.
every order of the Supreme Personality.
हाँ
All according to the religious principle and
लग रहा है कि अभी नहीं माता जी ऐसा इंडिकेशन दे रहे हैं प्रभु जी अभी पास हो गया
in complete
पढ़िए पढ़िए
in complete coordination with him, he dedicated his sons unto the earth, which was considered to be his daughter. Then Maharaja Prithu left the presence of his citizens who were amongst lamenting almost lamenting and crying from feeling separation from the king, and went to the forest alone with his wife to perform observances.
So that is the ideal Raja Rishi. After spending his life taking care of the citizens, they never forget the purpose of life. That is described about every king. About Bharat Maharaj also it is described. He left everything as if a person passes the stool and never even looks at it. Gave up as if. Prabhupada writes in the purport. Since there were many discrepancies during the reign of King Vena, Lord sent his confidential devotee Prithu to settle things. Now everything is settled. Now the services of Prithu Maharaj was over. He has to go back. He had set all the exemplary standards. So therefore he had to set the last standard of retirement. So he did that also wonderfully. Okay. Chakravarti Thakur writes, Prithu Maharaj thought, the Lord will not bring me to his side for service. That is what is going on in the mind of Prithu Maharaj. What was the need for him to renounce? Because he's thinking, मैंने तो कुछ किया ही नहीं. I have not done any puja, no service, no worship, no devotion properly. Lord will not bring me to his side. I have not done that much worship. I have not been fully purified. So what I'll do? Taking Vanprastha, going to forest and engaging in chanting and remembering 24 hours like our ancestor Dhruva. He is coming in the line of Dhruva Maharaj. No? I will perform austerities to attain the Lord quickly. So that is the thought process. He is not renouncing the world thinking, I will set the standard. Mahajano yenagata. He is thinking, I have not done anything. That's the mood our devotee always have. That is the mood Lord himself establishes. Never considering oneself qualified enough. Next verse, translation.
Retiring from family life, Maharaj Prithu strictly followed the regulations of retired life and underwent severe austerity in the past. He engaged in these activities as seriously as he had formerly engaged in leading the government and conquering every caste.
So in the forest also he intensely followed the renounced order of life. Very seriously. As seriously he was ruling the kingdom, he was as serious now for executing devotional service. So that means how serious he was in ruling the kingdom. He was not just, if you know that ultimately I have to leave it. So you'll not put your heart into it. But he actually put his heart into it. That is a devotee. Even if he knows that ultimately I have to leave everything, but he does his best. Because he knows this is a service given to me by the Lord. As it is necessary for one to become very active in family life, it is necessary to become very active in family life. Similarly, After retirement, it is necessary to control the mind. This is possible when one engages himself fully in devotional service. According to the whole purpose of Vedic system, the Vedic social order is to enable one to ultimately return back home. That is the ultimate purpose of Varnashrama. Prabhupada elaborates on the Varnashram. Prithu Maharaj followed all the rules of Varnashram and ultimately he renounced the world also. And he set the right example.
The present context, but now we can use this principle of Varnashram, the party age, to take one of those.
Stay wherever you are. Externals may not matter. Internally, we should be detached. After a certain age, we should stop taking so much interest in the family affairs and focusing more on spiritual activities, devotional activities. We may not go to the forest, we may not practice, take vanprastha or sannyas, but the principle of detachment can be applied anywhere, everywhere. Not interfering in the family affairs. Now,
But we are in the same place you are there now.
that's more difficult.
It is more difficult than going back. Go.
So, क्या करें?
Forest because you are already there, but I don't have to worry about it. But at home, it's constantly
Out of sight, out of mind. That was the tradition, and that's why it was described in a given. ना go to forest. घर में बैठ के सामने आपको दिख रहा है. Not so easy. वो एक अच्छा सा वीडियो है वो मुंबई वाराणसी एक्सप्रेस. आपको मैंने पहले भी एक बार बताया था ना. अच्छा वीडियो. बेचारा उसको एक बिजनेसमैन था. He came to know that he has only few months to live. And he was a spiritual person. तो सब छोड़ के लेटर लिख के रात में ही चला गया वाराणसी. Boarded the train.
So what happened finally?
फाइनली नहीं, पूरा बताने पे थोड़ा अच्छा पंच आता है.
You have played in one of the plans.
नहीं दिखाया नहीं होगा. लंबा आधा घंटे का है. मुंबई वाराणसी एक्सप्रेस.
वो मिल जाएगी यूट्यूब में.
He boards the train मुंबई से वाराणसी वाली. Train stops at सूरत. सूरत पे बाहर एक उसको दिखता है. नहीं समोसा नहीं. वो एक शॉप है सूरत का वो फेमस कुछ तो शॉप है. तो वहां पे लिखा रहता है सूरत नु जेवण एंड काशी नु मरण. मतलब खाना है तो सूरत में तो खाना ही है. सूरत भी ऐसा कहीं नहीं है. मरना है तो काशी. तो बोला अभी तो मैं खा नहीं सकता यहाँ से. ठीक है क्या करें. अल्टीमेटली पहुंच जाता है वाराणसी. And he starts spending time. He makes friends with one rickshawala who takes him everywhere. He starts staying in some ashram. On वाराणसी का हवा में उसका कैंसर ठीक हो जाता है. मूवी में कुछ तो होगा ना ऐसा. So after 1 year, एक बार एक वो समोसा खा रहा है. और जिस पेपर पे उसको समोसा दिया उसमें न्यूज दे पड़ता है वो Swachan's factory is getting sold out. तो मेरा फैक्ट्री मेरे बेटे रास्कल he could not maintain it. सोचने लगता है. तो रिक्शा वाला बोलता है सर आप क्या सोच रहे हैं. जाने का तो नहीं सोच रहे ना. वो रिक्शा वाला मुस्लिम है. बोलता है अच्छा सोच रहे हैं. नहीं जाना पड़ेगा मेरे को. तो वापस ट्रेन वही मुंबई वाराणसी एक्सप्रेस पकड़ता है. वाराणसी से आता है ट्रेन फिर से वो रुकती है सूरत. बोलता है अरे अब तो खा के आता हूँ यार. तो ट्रेन से उतरता है स्टेशन क्रॉस करता है. And as he is crossing the road, a bus comes and hits him and he is dead. वहां पे स्टोरी खत्म हो जाती है. बेचारा मरने के लिए वाराणसी गया था. मरता है सूरत. Attachments are so powerful. वो सब छोड़ के बेचारा गया उधर. फिर भी उसको वापस उसका अटैचमेंट्स के लिए गया. So of course it is difficult ना. इसलिए जंगल में गए. अभी नो न्यूज. कुछ नहीं अभी पता है. पेपर नहीं पढ़ना चाहिए. पता है whatever we can. course, for devotees, it is not so important, but the mood of renunciation is important. Not getting so much involved in the material family affairs.
Next, very difficult to maintain.
वो आप लोग का इंडिविजुअल है, मैं भी कुछ नहीं बोल सकता. That is everybody's individual struggle. क्या करें अभी, कब छोड़ना है, कहाँ छोड़ना है, कैसे छोड़ना है, वो तो what Krishna will inspire from within, when he will inspire,
As per our
बस उसके हिसाब से होगा. क्या करें.
जब तक ये कुछ नहीं समझ रहे.
Prithu Maharaj went to Tapovan. Next verse, translation.
In the Tapovans, Maharaj Prithu sometimes ate drums and roots of sweets, and sometimes he ate fruit and dried leaves, and for some weeks he drank only water. Finally, he leaves in the by reading it.
मतलब बहुत बार आता है ना, dried leaves खा रहे हैं. कैसे खाते होंगे ना dried leaves? हाँ, रे ध्रुव महाराज. So following his predecessor only, ध्रुव महाराज को follow कर रहे हैं. Okay, so Prabhupada, he brings us to the ground. He says, Baba, अत्याहार और प्रयास नहीं करना चाहिए. Not too much eating, not too much endeavor. Oh, it's drinking nothing or breathing only, वो तो मुश्किल है. Whatever is needed, we should do it. Do the needful. And then Prabhupada writes, it is also notable that according to Vedic injunction to live in the forest means living in goodness, live in the city, fashion, brothels, ignorance, and temple, they are Vaikuntha. This Krishna consciousness movement affords one the opportunity to live in the temple, which is as good as Vaikuntha. We can make our homes as Vaikuntha by installing the Lord, bringing the Lord. Krishna, देखिए आंसर है आपका. A Krishna conscious person does not need to go to forest and artificially try to imitate Prithu Maharaj and the great sages who used to live in the forest. बस घर में मंदिर बनाइए, घर में रहिए. Then Prabhupada quotes about Rupa Goswami, how he left everything, went to Vrindavan and he's made temples. He did 4 things, 4 instructions given to Rupa Sanatana Goswami. तुम्ही करिह भक्ति शास्त्रेर प्रचार, मथुराया तो लुप्त तीर्थेर करिह उद्धार, वृंदावने कृष्ण सेवा वैष्णव आचार, भक्ति स्मृति शास्त्र करिह प्रचार. Prabhupada writes how Rupa Goswami did all that. Okay.
Yeah, he took vow, and then how he has maintained that vow. If he has not maintained, he has broken that vow in one sense. He said, never I will leave, but he was staying, I never leave this place, but he was staying in temple as good as Vaikuntha is. Last supper.
नहीं वो नहीं, उसमें नहीं लिख रहे हैं. वो नहीं लिख रहे हैं कि he broke his vow.
But actually that vow is not mentioned here. The answer of the vow is mentioned here.
Also vow?
So Thakur said, I will never leave or something like that.
नहीं, वो उनका vow नहीं है. That was the instruction of Gaur Kishore Das Babaji. He gave 3 instructions to Bhakti Vinod Thakur.
Yes.
Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Never go to Kolkata. और क्या था मेरे को याद. Never make disciples. And तीसरा क्या था?
Something else like that.
So सब अच्छे दोनों ने.
Yeah, but the
explanation. He says, I am not living in Kolkata, I am living in Gaudiya Math temple, that is Vaikuntha. And I am not accepting disciples, they are my gurus. I am serving them. But तीसरा वाला भी कुछ तो था. Anyways.
Brilliant.
Okay, next verse, translation.
Following the principles of forest living and the footsteps of the great state ceremonies, Prithu Maharaj accepted 5 kinds of living processes. During the summer season, exposes himself to torrents of rain in the rainy season, and in the winter, stood in water up to his neck. He also used to simply lie down on the floor to sleep.
Panchatap, he says, Prabhupada writes, Panchatap refers to 5 kinds of heating process. One is enjoying to sit within the circle of fire with blazing flames blazing from 4 sides and sun from above. That is Panchatap. Next verse, translation.
Maharaj Prithu
ये
underwent
खाली पढ़ के खुश हो जाइए ज्यादा सोचने की जरूरत नहीं अपना तपस्या माला अगर हमको तपस्या करना है तो एकादशी करो निर्जल करो एकादशी
निर्जल ही नहीं करते
ऑप्शन नहीं बहुत डिफिकल्ट है
निर्जल भी हो जाती तो माला में तो
मान उससे बड़ी तपस्या है नॉट टू क्रिटिसाइज नॉट टू फाइंड ऊपर में बड़ी anyways continue.
Maharaj Prithu underwent all these severe austerities in order to control his words and his senses, to refrain from discharging his semen, and to control the life air within his body. All this he did for the satisfaction of Krishna. He had no other.
प्रभुपाद immediately बोलते हैं टेंशन मत लो चैंटिंग करो चैंट हरे कृष्णा and be happy. That is the biggest austerity. That is the person who is Krishna conscious is most intelligent. Jai Krishna bhaje sahi bada chatur.
In Kali-yuga, it's not at all possible to undergo such
Possibly नहीं. Then Prabhupada writes, there are many fools who claim that worship of Krishna began only 5,000 years ago. It is not a fact. Because Prithu Maharaj worshipped Krishna. There is Hari Radha Krishna. Worship Krishna. Okay. And then the easiest way to worship Krishna in Kali Yuga is chanting. And that is the happiest process. Ananda bolo hari bhaja vrindavan, Shri Guru Vaishnava pade maja yaman. For a transcendental blissful life, chant Hare Krishna, come to a place of Vrindavan, engage in service of the Lord and spiritual master and the Vaishnavas. This is very safe and easy. Okay, so we'll take the last verse and then we'll end. Yes, translation please.
steadfast in spiritual life and completely free of all desires for physical activity. He also practiced breathing exercises to control his mind and senses, and by such control, he became completely free from all the desires for physical activity.
So what was the result of all these austerities he did? Tena kramanusiddhena, by practicing severe austerities, Prithu Maharaj became steadfast in spiritual life. Siddha, he became steadfast. Second, dhvasta karma malakshayaha. He became freed of all the desires for fruitive activities. Pranayamai sannirdha. He also practiced breathing exercises to control the mind and senses. And by such control, what happened? Shadvarga chinna bandhana. He became completely free from the desires. So that's how by practicing these austerities, his mind became completely peaceful, joyful. He destroyed all his karma. So now the question is, there are no karmas for Prithu Maharaj. He destroyed his karmas. This is described. Previously, he had already accomplished this by controlling the breath through repeating mantras concerning the Lord as part of Bhakti Marga. So Bhakti is sufficient to destroy all the karmic reactions. All these things are not required to destroy karma. Okay. Yeah. The aim of pranayam, then Prabhupada focused on this word, pranayamai. The word pranayam is important. All the Hatha yogis do pranayam. What is the purpose of pranayam? Pranayam से क्या होता है? Mind is focused. Mind is cleansed. Purpose of mind is to stop the purpose of pranayam is to stop the mind and senses from engaging in fruitive activities so that we can focus on the Lord. The body becomes fit and strong so that one can continue practicing. And then Prabhupada writes, Kaliyug में सब possible नहीं है. It is just a waste of time in Kaliyuga to do all these things. Therefore, the best way is to chant the names of the Lord. That is the essence. Okay, so with this we'll end here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagvatam ki jai.
जय श्री प्रभुपाद जय हरे